Welcome, ladies and gentlemen, to another edition of the DFS Hockey Report. It is Christmas Eve. Merry Christmas Eve. Festivus, however you celebrate here on December 23rd. Merry Christmas. Happy holidays to everybody out there. An absolutely massive 12-game slate tonight. It's actually a 13-game slate in the NHL. The Maple Leafs and Pittsburgh Penguins are inexplicably just getting underway at 4 p.m. Eastern here. So we have a 12-game slate that starts at 6:30, so a little bit of an earlier start. We got 12 games to break down. Zach, how are you doing today? We're going to absolutely race through this 12-game.
Yeah, we're going to fly through this one today. Pretty fun slate, pretty excited. I was like running around like a chicken with my head cut off in Edmonton, getting my final Christmas shopping done, picking up some groceries, hitting up the liquor store, hitting up some other stores. It's been a busy day for me, but I am very excited to get into this slate tonight and build for another fun one.
Yeah, absolutely busy day for me as well. And we sprinted to get live here even just for 4 o'clock. So happy to be with you. We've got, as I mentioned, 12 game slate. So let's get into the starting goalies. John Gibson will go head to head with Casey DeSmith as the Detroit Red Wings host the Dallas Stars. The Boston Bruins will host the Montreal Canadiens. I was called out on X for calling them the Canadiens. And they thought people think I'm American, and because of the way I pronounce the Canadiens. So it's the Canadiens. The Boston Bruins and the Montreal Canadiens will meet in Boston tonight. It'll be Jeremy Swayman versus Jacob Fowler. The New York Islanders will go with David Riddick with Ilya Sorokin on the shelf. Jacob Markstrom likely to get the start for the Devils. Logan Thompson starts for the Washington Capitals. It'll be Igor Shesterkin for the New York Rangers. We've got Frederik Andersen. I can't remember the last time he started, but he'll go for the Hurricanes tonight up against the Florida Panthers, who will counter with Sergei Bobrovsky. Ottawa will go with Linus Ullmark, who is suddenly red hot. Alex Lyon likely to get the nod for the Buffalo Sabres, who are also suddenly red hot. I believe they've won 6 in a row. Philip Gustafson goes for the Minnesota Wild, projected to see UC Saros for the Nashville Predators. Scott Wedgwood likely to face the Utah Mammoth, who are likely to go with Karel Vejmelka. Connor Ingram makes second start in a row for the Edmonton Oilers. It will be Dustin Wolf for the Calgary Flames. And in the late games here, we've got Spencer Knight confirmed to get the start for the Chicago Blackhawks. We are projecting to see Sam Harrison on the second half of a back-to-back for the Flyers. Carter Hart likely to go for the Vegas Golden Knights, and he will likely be countered by Yaroslav Askarov for the San Jose Sharks. And then in the late game, the LA Kings host the Seattle Kraken. Both of those teams are on the second half of a back-to-back. Feel pretty confident that Joey Decord will get the start for the Seattle Kraken. Less confident that it's going to be Anton Forsberg for the LA Kings. But they had a back-to-back last week when, or after the Darcy Kemper injury. Forsberg started both ends of the back-to-back there, so I don't seem to be feeling all that confident in Phoenix Copley. It could certainly be Copley tonight. It could be Forsberg again. Really a true 50-50 there. Nick says, like, subscribe, join the Discord, fill the DK contest, and happy holidays. I agree with every single one of those things. If you want to join the DFS Discord, you can do so by clicking the link in the description of the video on YouTube. Let's get to tonight's slate, Zach, shall we? The Red Wings host the Dallas Stars tonight. Very exciting game here. The Red Wings might be the most underappreciated good hockey team in the NHL right now. Fifth best 5v5 expected goals for in terms of the weighted team ratings, top 10 in expected goals against, top 10 on the power play, top 10 on the PK. Yet they are plus 110 road or home underdogs. Not a lot of respect here. The Dallas Stars, to their credit, very good hockey team, but they're not as good as the Detroit Red Wings at 5v5. Their power play and their penalty kill, though, are as special as special teams get. In terms of the, I don't know why that is so funky, but let's see what we can do here. Okay, the Detroit Red Wings top line grades out as the best line to target in this game, but by and large, not a whole lot of ownership coming in on this game whatsoever. I do think that that's pretty fair. The matchups in this game, I don't know where all of the logos are. There we go. They're somewhat back. They're back. Okay. The matchups in this one, Detroit one's got an okay enough matchup. Same with the Dallas Stars, okay across the board. But the Dallas Stars, we've talked about it before, just don't do a whole heck of a lot at 5v5. I mean, these underlying metrics are pretty underwhelming, basically average to below average. They have converted because they've got a lot of talent. The Red Wings, fairly similar. Their underlying metrics are pretty good with these current line combinations, not amazing. So I don't think there's going to be a whole heck of a lot happening at 5v5 in this hockey game. And then you've got the fact that both teams also boast very good penalty kills. So for me, I just don't really think this is a great game environment. I think this has got the look of a 3-2, maybe a 4-2 with an empty netter type hockey game. And I think that the top dogs on both sides are somewhat in play at low ownership. I just don't have a whole lot of expectation for them to have monster performances. John Gibson got off to a really, really rough start to his Red Wings career, but in December he is yet to lose. He's 7-0 with a 934 save percentage in December, so he's suddenly caught fire. But I will say, he's faced the Bruins, the Kraken, the Canucks, the Flames, the Blackhawks, the Islanders, and the Capitals during that stretch. So not really the who's who of offenses. So I take it with a grain of salt there. I think he's definitely turned a corner. He looks a lot better from the eye test. He looks a little bit more comfortable. It's hard to turn your nose up at 7-0, 934 save percentage, but the matchups have been kind of far from difficult. Casey Smith, on the other hand, has been very good. Really tough start to the season. His first outing since then, 929 save percentage, 9-0-3 in his last 12. So both goalies played extremely well. Both defense is really solid. Both penalty kills really solid. I just don't see a whole lot of need to get to this game tonight. Zach, how about you?
Yeah, I agree with you, man. With the way that Dallas has kind of struggled at 5-on-5 for much of the season here, I feel like this is a tough game to kind of get to for me. I do agree with you with the score overall. I mean, I think there's certainly interesting pieces. Like Jason Robertson, he projects well. He could have a good night. Obviously, he's been tremendous as of late. Maybe a little DeBrincat, a little Larkin, Raymond. I'm okay with getting to some of those spots, but it doesn't really feel like a necessity. I think Detroit too offers an interesting kind of value option. Alex DeBrincat obviously been solid, but John Leonard has been solid, since he's been called up to the Red Wings as well. So I think that could be an interesting route to go. But I agree with you from the whole. I mean, I just don't really feel the need to kind of get to this game a whole lot. Those goal for numbers for this second line are very, very impressive. So, definitely a get different spot if you kind of go that way tonight. I'm not sure how much I'll be going that way, but certainly an interesting option there for sure.
Yeah, and just to let everybody know, I forgot to mention it off the top. I did do Wowies again. I was feeling absolutely generous on this Christmas Eve, and I did do Wowies again despite the 12-game slate. So we have a lot more confidence in the numbers today. But yeah, I agree. That second line's been really good for the Red Wings, a nice value option. But again, just a very tough matchup here with the Stars in town. JVR train, I mean, always decent value. Doesn't play a ton at 5v5. Power play 1, though, helps. The problem is the power play matchup sucks, so probably not so much for me tonight. I think there's some better value options up front tonight. The Boston Bruins will host the Montreal Canadiens. I almost did it again. -118 home favorites for the Bruins. Basically a pick 'em here. Both teams struggling offensively. Both teams pretty solid defensively. And the team that has the good power play goes up against the good penalty kill. The team with the bad power play goes to the bad penalty kill. So overall, the Bruins have the seventh best power play advantage tonight, and the Montreal Canadiens have the second best power play advantage. I think the Canadiens, I don't play them a lot. I think the Canadiens look pretty appealing tonight. The top line grades out in the top 10. Pretty good power play matchup as well. They're not drawing any ownership at all. Matchup wise on both sides of the puck here, really, really good. So kind of it's an interesting one because when you take a look at the weighted team ratings, both teams grade out very well defensively. But in terms of the Wowie stats, there's some real ugly numbers within the Wowie stats. And, basically an even mix here for Boston. One, going to see kind of a mix of the top 9 for the Canadians, and they're the real bad defensive line. But the underlying metrics here for all 4 lines of the Bruins, not very good. Overall not terrible. They're not giving up a ton of goals, but the overall metrics are definitely below average. So I do think when you take a look at this Montreal side of things, this top line is really the one that has the only one with anything that's got, anything going for them at all. So that's kind of the reason I like that side of the puck tonight. I think that, you've got Caulfield, Suzuki, Bolduc, Bolduc down on the second power play unit, but still you got Suzuki, Caulfield up on that top power play unit with Hudson. And again, second best power play advantage of the night. Projected to see 3.2 power plays. The Bruins terribly undisciplined. So I do think this is a pretty good spot for the Montreal Canadiens. I don't hate the Boston side of things either, but they're drawing a little bit more ownership than I was kind of probably prepared for. And to be honest with you, just to kind of put the cart ahead of the horse here, I've got quite a bit of interest in Jacob Fowler tonight. I think that he's been really, really solid so far in his NHL career. And to be honest with you, on a per game basis, he has the most goals saved above expected per game in the NHL right now. 1.61, I believe it is, second on that list. Obviously, in a much larger sample size is Ilya Sorokin at 1.35. So literally 0.3 goals saved above expected, better than the second best goalie in the league in that category this year at $7,600 against a Bruin offense that doesn't have a ton going for them. I think Fowler is a really interesting, low-owned, cheaper goalie tonight. So that alone is probably keeping some of my interest off the Bruins, but it's not difficult to ignore Pastrnak and Geeky as hot as they've been with a 98.9% matchup score. The underlying metrics are basically dead average. They haven't really seemed to care that much. The power play score is pretty solid as well. So getting into that Boston top line who fully correlate the top power play unit seems to make some sense to me as well. So both basically top line or bust for me. The depth pieces of both these teams are absolutely terrible. How about you, Zach?
Yeah, I agree with you here, man. It feels like top line or bust on both of these spots. Evidently, we've seen what Boston One has been doing this season. It almost feels like they're like borderline unstoppable to a certain extent. Certainly not the case, but I mean, with Morgan Geeky, the way that he's playing, continuing to just shoot the lights out, 26, 27%, on the year here. Feels like Pasternak's kind of cooled off a little bit offensively here, especially on the goal front here, but always just a guy with tremendous volume. I don't really know how much I'm going to get to this game here. I think I'm probably going to sprinkle in a little bit of Boston One just with how hot they've been here over this last stretch. Maybe a little bit of Montreal One too, but I don't have a ton of interest in this game here. It feels like there are some better spots on the slate to kind of get to. And, even with Montreal, I mean, that top line, the best offensive line that they have is still not really performing all that tremendously well. You'd like to see some more high danger chances there, even if the goal rate and the expected goal rates are pretty strong there. The depth pieces on both of these sides, I just really don't feel a need to kind of get to here on this slate tonight. So I agree with you, man. I think, pretty much top line or bust for me. The Bruins have a decent power play matchup as well. Evidently that top line has that correlation on the top power play unit, which is always an added bonus whenever you can get that. You can pair them with Charlie McAvoy at just $4,900. He's been dirt cheap and has been really good since coming back from injury as well.
Yeah, in terms of my XG model, both these teams grade out below average tonight. So certainly not the best game environment, but both top lines feel like even if there is, 5 goals in this game, those two top lines probably going to factor in on all of them. And I don't know if it really matters at what time frame you break down Morgan Geeky's game logs, but if you take a look at his last 16 games, the man has 13 goals. He has shot inexplicably 33.3%. He's on a 67 goal pace during that stretch. It's unbelievable. I have no clue what to say about this man anymore. Brock, are you anti-pasta tonight? Please say you are so I can slam him in there in everything. You are the pasta whisperer. I'm like the anti-pasta whisperer because when I play him he sucked. When I don't play him he's good. I'll play him a little bit tonight, but I'm not. I'll probably be under the field at 12%. But if Morgan is playing him, I should probably have interest because he is the GOAT. The Islanders host the New Jersey Devils. Both teams suck offensively. Both teams suck defensively. Both penalty kills suck and both power plays are good. So looks like a decent spot for both power plays tonight, but then they don't grade out very well because both teams don't really draw a lot of penalties and don't take a lot of penalties. So I'm looking at the wrong one. Sorry. The Islanders actually have the fourth best power play matchup on the slate. I got ahead of myself there. Fourth best power play matchup for the Islanders. The Devils, the third. I just don't know if I have a whole lot of faith in either of these offenses right now. Like obviously with Jack Hughes back in the mix, I think it's it's easier to have interest in Hughes and Bratt. But I mean, when you take a look at the matchups, they're not great. The top line for the Islanders looks okay, but then the underlying metrics, they're solid. But I just still don't know how much I trust this Islanders top line. Lee, Barzell, Holmstrom. Holmstrom's the trigger man of the second power play unit. You got Lee and Barzell on the top unit. Fourth best power play matchup. I could see a reason to get there. I never really play the Islanders with a whole lot of confidence. So I'm probably the wrong guy to ask in this spot if I should play the Islanders or the Devils tonight. For the most part, this doesn't feel like the best game environment. I don't hate it. I look at the New Jersey side and I want to have faith that, with Hughes and Bratt back together, they can get something going. Meyer and Heischer have obviously been good this year. Like, I want to have faith in this Devils offense to get it going against David Riddick, banged up Islanders team. But I'm having a hard time buying back in. I kind of bought in the other night, and they look like shit. Obviously, the Sabres are the best team in the NHL right now. So, that probably played a role. But what are your thoughts on this game? Because I'm having a difficult time clicking on it.
Yeah, I kind of agree with you, man. I mean, obviously Jack Hughes coming back from injury, he's looked, really solid in that the one game or two that he's returned to the lineup. I just feel like this is kind of a bit of a lower scoring kind of grinding game. I think it's hard to kind of trust the Islanders on a consistent basis. They're not really drawing a whole lot of ownership. Nobody in this game is really drawing ownership. I kind of tend to agree with the field here, and that I've got a little bit more interest in the Islanders than I do the Devils here. Jacob Markstrom, I've said it before, I'll say it again, has not been good this season. He's a guy, as well as Jordan Binnington, whenever they're in the crease, I like to target the opposing teams. So I think for that reason, I'll maybe sprinkle a little bit on the Islanders here. Matthew Schaefer's always going to project well on the blue line. And the Islanders power play, for as much as it hasn't really been scoring a lot, they're generating a lot of quality looks. And it is a Devils power play or penalty kill rather. That's kind of the opposite, not really doing well in terms of the underlying numbers, but they are killing off 81.6% of the penalties they're taking. So I think for me, I'll sprinkle in a little bit of this Islanders top line, maybe a little bit of Schaefer as well. And that's probably going to be it from this game for me, I think.
Yeah, like I think I'll end up on. I want to end up on more New Jersey than the Islanders, but I think the Islanders grade out a little bit better. These two teams met once this year. It was 3-2 for the Islanders. Jack Hughes did play in that game. I have a similar feeling about this game tonight. The Washington Capitals and the New York Rangers, the Caps. I don't know if I can find the tweet quickly, but basically they said that every single player in the lineup tonight is a game time decision. They name dropped Tom Wilson exclusively, but basically everybody beyond Logan Thompson is a game time decision this evening. So that's kind of tough. Makes it difficult to target. The Rangers have played very well defensively, just absolutely atrocious offensively. Special teams have been special for the Rangers, not so much for the Capitals. Again, another game, lower pace scored, lower matchup scores, all the question marks surrounding the Capitals, really good goalies on both sides. I personally don't have a lot of interest. There's no underlying metrics here that really stand out. There's no matchups here that really stand out. New York, too, pretty good matchup, but no JT Miller. I think it's a little bit difficult to trust there. Both power plays grade out really poorly. Both teams very disciplined or don't draw a lot of penalties. So to me, this game is just not one that looks that appealing. And the field feels the same way, just drawing no ownership at all. That being said, New York 1 grades out as the number 4 line overall tonight. If we take a bit of a deeper dive into those numbers, going to see a lot of ice time against the Washington second line tonight. Washington second line, pretty good offensive metric or defensive metrics. New York 1, okay offensive metrics. The real reason they're grading out so well is projected for 33% of the ice time with some of their injuries. So that's boosting them. I don't think it's enough for me. I'm going to agree with the field here. Lower scoring game that I personally don't think that I will be clicking on that much. Both teams grade out very low in terms of my XG model, and I agree. How about you?
Yeah, I agree with you, man. I'm probably staying off of this game entirely. With the lineup news around the Capitals, I think it's kind of tough to trust anything getting their way. And the Rangers are just a terrible hockey team. Let's be real here. I mean, they can just not seem to put it together here this season. So for me, I really don't have an issue fading this spot. I think if you get to a little bit of that top line for the Rangers, I can see why Panarin and Zibanejad have been solid as of late. Both have been around point per game against the Capitals in their career. But this is kind of one of those games where it feels like we can kind of talk about it for a minute or two and then kind of sort of move on to the next one.
Yeah, it feels like whenever the Rangers start to find their footing, win 2-3 in a row, then they go on like a 2-3-4 game losing streak, and you're like, oh yeah, they suck again. And then they give you hope that maybe they're back. And then Adam Fox gets hurt. Then it's like, oh, maybe they're back. And then JT Miller gets hurt. And you're just like, this team actually is just not a good hockey team. Let's get to Carolina and Florida. These two teams meeting up always kind of interesting because both teams typically pretty good defensively. It hasn't necessarily been the case this year. Both teams offensively, one better than the other. I think the Wowie stats tell a bit of a different story when you look at the Florida Panthers. Offensively, the second line's just been spectacular. For them tonight, they're going to see a lot of the bottom six here of the Hurricanes. So a lot of the Kotkaniemi line, a lot of the Mark Jankowski line. Both those lines, or one of those lines, grades out well defensively. One of them just slightly below average. I don't really care with Frederik Andersen between the pipes. He's been so bad this year, has barely played lately. I think Florida 2 is in a really, really good spot tonight. This is a line that I'm really interested in playing. They get out third best. They're seeing very limited ownership outside of Sam Bennett. So I think Florida 2 is a really nice low-owned spot tonight with Frederik Andersen between the pipes. I'm certainly going to get there. The way without Seth Jarvis, the way that the lineup shakes out for the Hurricanes leaves a little bit to be desired. Svechnikov, Stahl, Stankoven doesn't make me feel the warm and fuzzies here. The rest of this lineup, not so much either. So I think you're kind of pigeonholed into looking at the top line with Ehlers, Aho, and Blake. Their matchup's pretty good. They're going to see a lot of Florida 3, a decent chunk of the top 6. And, the second and third line for the Panthers, not great defensive metrics. Okay offensive metrics for the top line of the Hurricanes. So an interesting spot here, I think, in this game. Both teams not great on the power play, but or grading out very well in the power play, I should say. But I think the top line of the Hurricanes with Jackson Blake moving to that top power play unit at $4,300, with Ehlers at $5,500 and Aho at $6,600. I mean, $60,400 to full stack this line is very appealing. And when you take a look at this lineup, I do think that this line is going to get a healthy amount of run tonight. And then Florida 2 just grades out so well. So again, not a game that really you look at and it screams super high offensive output. Both teams grade out below average in my, or average to below average in my XG model. So I don't think it's a tremendous game environment, but when you look at the entirety of this game, it does look like even if it's a 3-2 hockey game, these two lines are going to do most of the damage. And that's been the case. It's been the Aho line for the Hurricanes as of late, primarily been the Bennett, Marchand, Verhaeghe line for Florida. So I'm interested at, very low ownership in these two lines. How about you, Zach?
Yeah, I mean, I think this is a really interesting kind of game environment here. I got a lot of interest in Florida tonight for sure. They are featured in my head-to-head lineup, this second line. I mean, they've just been so good as of late here. Tough matchup, be damned. The line stats are just so tremendous for these three guys together. And again, the struggles that the Carolina Hurricanes goaltending department has had for much of the season beyond Brandon Bussi has been, it's been difficult, right? Like Freddie Andersen has not looked himself. Kochetkov can't really seem to string it together. So matchups be damned. I like this spot here, especially for this second line of the Florida Panthers. So, I mean, this is a line that I'll be getting to tonight for sure. I think I can get to some of this top line for the Carolina Hurricanes as well. I like the idea of Blake and Ehlers up there with Sebastian Aho. Aho's been great against Florida in his career, 14 goals and 32 points in 33 games played. Nick Ehlers, 8 goals, 14 points in 16 games played. I have no problem getting there either. Admittedly, I've kind of got a little bit of interest in the second line for the Carolina Hurricanes. The correlation on the power play unit is something that is certainly nice there, with Jordan Stahl getting the bump up. That being said, they're going up against a really good penalty kill from the Florida Panthers, and the Hurricanes' power play has not been great this season either. But nonetheless, there is some of that correlation there, so you can't argue against that too much. So I think I've got some interest in this game for sure. I'm going to be over the field on this this second line for the Florida Panthers for sure. I think this is a really interesting leverage spot on this slate tonight, and I'll probably get to some ownership around this top line for the Carolina Hurricanes too.
Yeah, these two teams met once this year. It was a 4-3 shootout win for the Florida Panthers. And in that game, Sebastian Aho had 2 goals. Sam Bennett had a goal and an assist. Brad Marchand had a goal and an assist. Verhaeghe had an assist. Sam Bennett had 10 shots on goal in that game. So just goes to show that those two lines certainly can get there against each other this evening. Ottawa and Buffalo, I think one of the more intriguing games of the night. The Atlantic Division, has kind of been flipped on its head this year. The Buffalo Sabres playing very well as of late. The Ottawa Senators starting to come to life. Obviously the return of Brady Tkachuk helps a ton there. They're minus 147 home favorites. Both great out inside the top 5 in terms of 5v5 XG right now. Both power plays really good. Both teams a little bit less good defensively. So let's take a look here. I think that this is, a really, really good spot for Ottawa. One, they are drawing a considerable amount of ownership here at about 12.4% as a whole. Really, really bad grades here for Buffalo. Ottawa won. Let's take a look at them. We'll focus on them to start. They're going to go primarily up against the second and third line of the Buffalo Sabres. And the second line of the Sabres, good defensive metrics. Very good. Third line, not so much. Ottawa won with Zetterlund up there with Tkachuk and Stützle have been on fire. Just absolutely dominating the opposition. Unbelievable offensive metrics, unbelievable defensive metrics, just taking it to them. So really interested in Ottawa one. I think this is a good spot for them. Yes, the Sabres have played well as late, winning a lot of hockey games. They're very good offensively. They grade out extremely poorly defensively. I think this is a really, really nice spot for Ottawa. I think it's a really nice spot for Ottawa one specifically. I like Shabbat. I like Shabbat correlates with them pretty nicely at 5v5. Sanderson correlates nicely with them on the power play. I think you compare either one of those two with them. Power play matchup tonight's 9th, not terrible, not great. The Sabres grade out 17th on the power play tonight, and the matchups are just real bad across the board. The Senators with their current lineup configuration, basically since they've lost Shane Pinto, they've went with this lineup. They've lost Pinto, they got Tkachuk back, and this has been the lineup. The top nine's been unbelievable defensively. So pretty tough spot here for the Sabres, who just the offensive metrics are just okay. I'm not in love with these line combinations. They've really kind of broken them up into 3 mini stacks with Thompson and Doan, so you can certainly go there. You got Norris and Tuck. Obviously, you got the Norris revenge game narrative. You've also got the Benson, McLeod, Quinn line on the third line. So I just don't love. I wish they kind of would load up a little bit more one of these lines like they had previously, and you'd be able to go to them with a little bit more confidence. So yeah, you've got the Norris revenge narrative. If you want to play into that, that's fine. He's been excellent. The Cousins revenge narrative is there as well. If you want to get to Ottawa too, they've been pretty solid. Their underlying metrics are very good. The problem is they draw the toughest assignment here of the night. So really like Ottawa one. That's kind of it for me, but certainly plan on getting at least close to the field, potentially over the field on Ottawa one time. It feels like a really good spot. How about you?
Yeah, I totally agree with you, man. I mean, if this top line comes in at like 12%, I'm totally okay getting up to like 15% here on Ottawa one. I mean, Brady Tkachuk has been an absolute monster. Like 15.7 shots on goal per hour. Since returning from injury, he has been absolutely ripping it. Tim Stützle has been rock solid as well. Fabian Zetterlund shooting the lights out, man. 19.5 shooting percentage over his last 20 games played. But hey, when you're up there on a top line with guys like Brady Tkachuk, who's just an absolute volume hound, you can kind of capitalize on some of these chances that you're getting. I don't know how much I'm going to get to these depth pieces for this Ottawa side of things. I'm probably okay staying off of this second line. Maybe a little bit of interest in this third line in a 20 max or 150 max. Just not a lot of volume from these guys. That's kind of the big concern there for me at the very least. And in terms of the Buffalo Sabres side of things, I mean, they have been red hot here as of late, but these are some brutal matchups for this Sabres side of things. I don't know if I'm going to get there tonight. I might land on, maybe 5% Buffalo one. Josh Doan, 3 assists in 3 games played against the Senators. Tage Thompson, 10 goals, 14 points in 18 games played. Could probably make an argument for playing little Alex Tuck as well. 7 goals and 18 points in 21 games played. His floor has been tremendous as of late. So, I think there's some viable options. But I think I'm kind of more comfortable from, going either the mini stack route on this Buffalo side of things or just one-offing any of those 3 guys that I had mentioned there. But yeah, this Ottawa top line looks like an absolute blast here tonight. Tough power play matchup for the Senators here tonight, going up against a penalty kill that's operating in an 85% clip. That is absolutely absurd there. But boy, 71.4% for that Senators penalty kill is pretty brutal, to say the very least.
Yeah. Linus Ullmark, 943 save percentage his last 3 starts. Just to shed a little bit more light on Fabian Zetterlund, probably one of my favorite value options tonight. In his last 15 games, he's averaging 2.4 shots on goal, 4.2 shot attempts. He has scored 8 goals. He's on pace for 44 goals, 66 points during that 15-game stretch. So you got basically a guy that's scoring at a 40-goal clip over his last month at $3,500 right now. A guy that we know has a really good shot. I like Zetterlund a lot tonight. Let's get to the Minnesota Wild and the Nashville Predators. Kind of mirror images of each other, funnily enough. Both teams grade out very nice in terms of 5-5 offense, not so much in terms of 5-5 defense. The power play and penalty kills where things get a little bit different. The Predators still trying to find their way on the power play here. But 3.5 implied total for the Wild, big favorites, minus 180 in this one. In terms of the matchups, though, the matchups really shade the Predators' way tonight. I tweeted about it earlier. The fact that the Wild have like the third lowest goals against average as a team this year is just crazy to me with how bad they've been defensively. Their goaltending is just so incredibly elite. It's bonkers. But I mean, the defensive metrics here are bad. Like they give up scoring chances at will. Nashville won, new look Nashville won with Forsberg, Stamkos, and O'Reilly. These underlying metrics aren't their exact wowie. They're individual or their actual wowie. It's only about 60 minutes or something. A little bit too small of a sample size for me to use, but it's like unbelievably good. So I think they're a kind of an interesting line tonight. They're graded 11th best. They're only seeing 4% ownership. They're only $16,200. Stamkos is really starting to come on. I'm very interested in Nashville one tonight. I think they're super sneaky and grading out within the top 11 here. Minnesota 2, like I love Boldy. I love Eric Snack. The underlying metrics are just kind of okay. The top line with Hartman they're solid. I think I have a little bit more interest in the Kaprizov Hartman line, although their matchup is significantly worse. So I don't know. Like this feels like a great spot for Minnesota, but I haven't really been able to play them with a lot of success. I think Hartman's looks really good on that top line. The shot volume's good. I feel a little bit better about that top line tonight, but honestly, I like the Predators to maybe be a sneaky bet here tonight. I think that most of my interest comes on this Predators money line tonight. I think it's sneaky at plus 161 here. I'm a bit of a Predators truther though, so tell me why I should be more interested in the Wild this evening.
Can I be honest with you? Is this a safe space?
Yeah, it's safe.
I like Nashville one a lot tonight.
Mm-hmm.
Like I really like them. I almost clicked on them in our head-to-head. I don't think that they're the best option for like a single entry per se, or like a head-to-head cash build or anything. But I think they are absolutely one of my favorite kind of GPP plays.
Yeah,
these three guys have been just tremendous. Ryan O'Reilly finding some production as of late after saying he only had one good year in his career. Well, Ryan, make it two because you're starting to turn things around here, buddy. I think this is a really fascinating spot. Again, the defensive struggles for Minnesota are real, and they're just absolutely bailed out by their goaltending, man. They do a fairly good job of limiting, opposing quality at times, but boy, the way this lineup is constructed, man, this just feels like a great spot. Nashville won. I think that they are a spot I'm definitely going to be getting over the field on. And admittedly, I don't even mind the idea of playing some of this second or third line either in a GPP. I can see myself kind of getting there. The matchups are so strong, especially for this third line. Granted, the offense, maybe it's not a great, the line stats aren't tremendous or anything like that, but they're consistent, this third line together. So, a Matthew Wood little one off, I think at $2,600, like I don't mind punting off on him. He's probably the one that I would. He has a goal in one game going up against the Minnesota Wild. Fedor Svechkov, 2 goals in 3 games played against the Wild. I think it's an option there. In the second line, like Evangelista, a guy we've been playing all season, Michael Bunting has kind of come out of nowhere with some production as of late as well here, providing a really solid floor and shot volume. So, I mean, I might get burnt on it. I'm not going to go crazy or anything like that, but I can see myself throwing 10% in Nashville 1, 5% at these second and third lines as some kind of puke stacks or puke punt plays tonight. In terms of the Wild, I don't really know what to do with them. I'm kind of interested in just fading them here. It sounds a little bit crazy, but the goals for numbers for this top line have been weak. This second line is the one that I probably feel a little bit better about. But, this is a Minnesota team that has, to a certain extent, also relied on their power play, for a good stretch this season. And they're going up against a tremendous penalty kill. on this Nashville Predators side of things. So I think for me, I'm probably going to come in under the field here on Minnesota as a whole, and definitely going to be coming in over the field on the Predators. I really like this spot.
Yeah, you take a look at Wallstead and Gustafsson, both facing 3.39 or 3.38 expected goals against per game. Wallstead is stopping 1.25 goals saved above expected per game. Gustafsson 0.9. So basically bailing the team out entirely this season. I was hoping that maybe you would provide a little bit of difference to me here, but yeah, full agreement here on Nashville one tonight. Let's go to Colorado and Utah. I mean, the Avs are just a juggernaut, but it is a bit curious to see them this big of favorites against a pretty damn good Utah team. I mean, Utah grades out very well in the weighted team ratings. I think they're a really good hockey team. This plus 214, is an interesting number. Do the Utah Mammoth, are they able to sneak one out tonight? I have a little bit less confident, but boy, there seems to be a lot of value in that number. I think that this is just a very solid Utah team, and as good as the Avs are, it seems like a big number. But as a result, the projections and everything are going to absolutely love the Colorado Avalanche tonight because they have a massive team total. And I mean, this is a very, very, very good hockey team. Their top line grades out number 1. Their second line grades out number 7. So really good options again tonight. Drawing a healthy amount of ownership on this top line. Gabe Landeskog up there with McKinnon and Nechas. You got Lehkonen, Nelson, Valerina Chushkin on this second line. Matchup favors the top line. The top line looks to be in a better spot than the second line. But the underlying metrics for the second line continue to be very strong. I will, kind of just disregard matchups for them and kind of always click on them a little bit while they're this cheap because their underlying metrics are just so much better than this price tag suggests that I don't mind just giving them a shot basically every night that they play because their underlying metrics are just that good. The top line, we already know what it is with this top line. They're fantastic, really, really good spot. So I mean, not the best spot, but just a really good line that they basically just see matchup proof. Every spot kind of feels like a good spot. So yeah, power play not really grading out well. 5v5 matchup though is pretty good. The underlying metrics really good. Their 5v5 matchup, they're gonna see a lot of Utah 3 tonight, who as good as they are offensively, do struggle a little bit defensively. So I think that opens things up for Colorado 1 to be a strong play tonight. As much as I think that Utah is a pretty good value in the betting market, I don't think I'm going to get there a whole lot in DFS. The top line grades out in the top 10, so you can consider them. JJ Peterka, I talked about it on DFO Live the other day. Top 7 in the NHL in terms of 5v5 points. Top 10 in the last calendar year. Absolute 5v5 monster. The problem with Utah is that they're a very good 5v5 team. Their power play is just so bad that it just limits their upside consistently. And they face a PK tag that kills at 85%. It's really going to be difficult for Utah to get there without any power play production tonight. So I'm probably off them entirely this evening. Just a really tough 5v5 matchup, although pretty interested in that value, potential value, I should say, on the betting line. So what are your thoughts here on this game? I'm assuming you're getting to some Colorado.
Yeah, definitely going to get to some Colorado. I'll probably get to Utah in the betting market. Like you said, like that is kind of an interesting line on the number on the money line, and even plus 1.5, they're only minus 120. Like that doesn't feel like that bad of a spot either here for Utah as a whole. That being said, Colorado 1 is Colorado 1, right? I mean, like these guys are just they're just seemingly unstoppable. I mean, 5.4 goals per hour. It's absolutely ridiculous. Like even over their last 10 games played, Nathan McKinnon is averaging a goal per game and 5.3 shots on goal per game. He's basically getting you a goal and the shot bonus every single game. That is absurd. Gabriel Landeskog, quietly been really solid here. Some good shot volume from him, getting bumped up to this top line as well. 29 shots on goal over his last 10 games. Martin Nechas, 11 assists over his last 10 here as well. Like there's always a reason to get to them. I'll get to 10-15% Colorado 1. I'll throw 5% at this second line. I've actually got Valeri Nichushkin in my daily face-off head-to-head tonight. I like him tonight. I think he's a solid play on this slate. And yeah, I mean, it's pretty tough for this Utah side of things here. I just don't really know if I'm going to get there. Probably going to get to my punt of Utah 3 just because I love to play them. Their line stats.
Even in this matchup, you just can't stay off them.
I can't, man. Like I'm just hooked on them.
You're a
I'm just
sicko.
hooked on them. They're cheap. They generate tons of quality. I know it's a tough spot here tonight, but I'm willing to throw a dart that they're able to find a way to kind of get something done in a 20 max, 5% of them. I'm fine taking that risk, right? But yeah, obviously Colorado looks like a tremendous play here tonight again. This seems like a great spot. Karel Vejmelka obviously has had some struggles over the course of this season at times. In his career, he's got a 3.01 goals against average against the Colorado Avalanche. So if he can hold them to 3 goals tonight, there's certainly a world where Colorado does not end up being optimal tonight.
He's been excellent as of late too. 6-3 the 916 save percentage in his last 9. Highest event game of the night as well. Let's get to Edmonton and Calgary. I bet this over yesterday. This feels like a really good game environment. The way that the Oilers are playing, but then obviously Connor Ingram. I mean, he looked solid in his first start. Don't get me wrong; they still gave up 3 goals. The Oilers, you talked about it, just did look a little fatigued in the second half of that game. On the second half of it, back to back. But the Flames offense, man, like I talked about them all year and just said, like, hey, this team is generating a lot of quality looks and just not converting at all. Like the unexpected goals numbers for like Kadri and Weegar and Coronado and everybody on the team basically. They had like 20 goals scored below expected, which is just on ice, which is just nuts. In their last, I don't know what this is, like 8 games, they've scored 4, then 2, but then 7, 3, 2, 3, 4, 6. I mean, the offense is starting to come alive here a little bit for the Flames. The Oilers, certainly not great defensively. The penalty kill continues to struggle. So this does look like a game that could turn into a bit of a track meet. Obviously, a game that you've got a lot of interest in this evening. Edmonton 1 grades out number 2 overall. Edmonton 2 grades out 17th best. The Kadri line, which is really starting to come on, grades out 12th best for the Flames. Calgary 2, which is the Huberdeau, Frost, Coronado line, grades out 24th. And then Calgary 3, 34th. In terms of the matchups of this one, really, 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 really good on the Edmonton Oilers side of things, particularly the Leon Draisaitl line. So I think that makes them pretty interesting because when you take a look at the underlying metrics, it certainly heavily favors Edmonton 1. The McDavid line, you've been talking about it a ton, Zach. Just they've looked phenomenal since Zach Hyman came back. Really, we talked about it pretty much all year. Like, man, like when can Hyman come back and get this line going again? And it's basically, it was like putting the key in the ignition and just turning this line on. They've been red hot basically since he returned to the lineup. The second line, pretty decent metrics, not like great, are converting because they've got Leon Draisaitl. Roslovic has been good. With this matchup, I do think that Edmonton 2 becomes a pretty interesting play tonight. Not really drawing much ownership outside of Leon. The top line's even not seeing a ton of ownership here. McDavid is, because he's been the hottest player on earth for the last month. But Hyman, pretty modest at 7.3. Nugent Hopkins, pretty modest at 4.7. So I think this is a really, really good spot for the Oilers tonight. I don't think I need to tee you up, really. I know you probably feel the exact same way. This top power play unit also sees 92% of the ice time, which is just hilarious. I love it. I love the commitment. And yeah, the power play has been unbelievable. PK for the Flames has been good, but I don't think it really matters. This power play unit is basically matchup proof. So before I get to you and let you go off on Edmonton, on the Calgary side, a little bit of a trickier matchup here for the Kadri line. They're going to see a lot of the McDavid line. Going to see a lot of the fourth line. A lot better matchup here for Calgary too. They're going to see a mix of the Draisaitl and the Henrique lines, which that's the better matchup. You basically want to go up against this Draisaitl line if you're going to kind of go up against the Oilers tonight. So a little bit more interest potentially in Calgary too tonight. Frost, Coronado, Huberdeau are interesting, but for the most part, most of my interest coming in on the Oilers tonight. But pretty good game environment this evening. Why and how much Oilers are you playing?
Yep. Definitely going to be playing the Edmonton Oilers here tonight. Connor McDavid is in legitimately one of the best runs of his entire career. 12 goals and 14 assists in his last 10 games played, 48 shots on goal over that stretch. Both Zach Hyman and Ryan Nugent-Hopkins, 12 points in their last 10 games played, 8 goals for Hyman, 4 assists, 4 goals and 8 assists for Nugent-Hopkins. I mean, these guys are just absolutely flying on all cylinders. And then, you got Connor McDavid, who scored 29 goals and 60 points in 43 games against the Calgary Flames in his career. It seems like just another smash spot. McDavid's shooting the lights out right now, 23% over his last 20 games played. But boy, he just looks arguably better than he's looked at any point in his career so far. He's on pace for 50 goals this season, which is legitimately almost come out of nowhere because through the first 20 games of the season, he only had like 3 or 4 goals. So he is absolutely red hot right now. And this shot volume that he has is absolutely delicious to see too. He probably should be 10K right now. I would not be surprised if coming out of the Christmas break, after he has another 3-point night tonight, that he does hit 10K and this line becomes really expensive. So yeah, I'm definitely going to be jamming the Edmonton Oilers in here tonight. Lots of reasons to like them in this spot. I love the shout on the second line too. Vasily Podkolzin has quietly been putting together a nice run of games here himself. 5 goals and 6 points in his last 10 games played. Would like to see more shot volume, but a guy like Leon Draisaitl up there, he's obviously eaten a lot of that. Draisaitl extremely snake bitten in the goals department right now. Shooting just 12% over his last 20 games played, 2 goals in his last 10. He is extremely due. He missed like a wide open net in the second or third period against Vegas the other night, which is extremely unlike him. So he's also a guy who's had success against the Flames, 15 goals, 65 points in 49 games played. So I'll be getting there for sure. Jack Roslovic just coming back from injury. So he missed, I can't remember exactly how many games it was, like something like 10 or 12 games here. He blocked a shot with his cup, and he actually required surgery after blocking this shot. He was literally laying his nuts on the line for the Edmonton Oilers. And you gotta love it. Pretty crazy to see that, but I like to look at the second line too. I'll be sprinkling them in. Evidently, get some Draisaitl with McDavid in my builds here tonight as well. The Calgary Flames, you mentioned it. They've been finding a way offensively here as of late. They're starting to feel like they're turning a little bit of a corner here. It does just feel like a pretty tough spot for them tonight. I think for me, I've got a little more interest in this top line around Kadri than I do this second line, even if the matchup is a little bit stronger for Calgary too. Coronado, Frost, and Huberdeau just have all really struggled against the Edmonton Oilers in their careers. Evidently Coronado, good shot volume over his last 20, 10.8 shots on goal per hour of ice time. But Kadri has just been absolutely burning it up right now. Don't mind the idea of a Coleman Backlund mini stack. They always seem to be a thorn in the Edmonton Oilers' side as well. And they've been some of the better players offensively for the Flames here over this little run as well. So, sure. I could probably talk for a lot longer about my love for the Edmonton Oilers tonight, but we'll just leave it at that, I think.
You can do so on Oilers Nation pregame coming up. Okay, just to give you an idea of how good Connor McDavid has been, last 10 games, he's scoring at a 98-goal, 213-point pace. Is that any good? It's pretty good, right? Not bad. All right, let's move on. Chicago and Philadelphia, from a very fun high-event hockey game to this one. I'm not playing the Blackhawks. They have nobody left in the lineup. Connor Bedard, not with us anymore. Frank Nazar, not in the lineup anymore. So, they're bad. They're defensively, they're a tire fire. Offensively, they're a tire fire. So, no Chicago for me. On the Flyer side of things, top 2 lines, very good offensive metrics. Matchup-wise, really good for the top line, pretty good for the second line. I still think this top line's got the highest upside of the group. They grade out by far and away the best. Zegras, Dvorak's been just red hot as of late. Konechny, it's the highest upside line. They're not drawing much ownership at all. And I certainly think that they can have a nice night. So I think Philadelphia 1 is a very nice play tonight. Philly 2, Tippett had 34 shots on goal last night, I think. He had 5 shots in the first 3 minutes of the hockey game. Yeah, he finished with 10, to be honest with you. I don't know how many shot attempts. It must have been egregious. Let me just look it up really quickly. But Denver Barkey's still up there, minimum price. I like those two as a mini stack option tonight. Again, that was 19 shifts. He had 11 shot attempts. He hit the net in 10 of 11 shot attempts. But he had 11 shot attempts in 19 shifts last night. That is pretty impressive efficiency numbers. So, I think they're a nice mini stack again tonight, Barkey and Tippett. I think they're super cheap if you want to pay up for the McDavids and the McKinnons and company. I think that those two make a lot of sense again tonight. So, certainly some interest on Philly 1 and Philly 2. Philly 3, as I mentioned yesterday, just not getting a lot going right now. Underlying metrics are not good. So, could they possibly get there against a bad Blackhawks team? Certainly at this price tag. I think they're an okay value option. But for me, most of my interest coming in through the top line, who feels like they have the highest upside, and Philly 2 feels like the best value. How about you?
Yeah, I agree with you. I've got interest in the Flyers. I was playing around with getting them in my head-to-head tonight. Just couldn't quite figure out a way to fit them the way that I wanted to. I'm certainly going to be over the field on Flyers. This feels like a really nice spot here for them. And I think this is a spot that the public is kind of overlooking as a whole here.
Yeah.
I mean, this Flyers team offensively has really been finding their way. 2.94 goals for per hour at 5-on-5 over their last 10, 4-2-4 over that stretch record wise. This feels like a bit of a smash spot for them here overall against a really banged up Chicago Blackhawks team. No Bedard, no Frank Nazar either. I'm certainly going to be over the field on the Flyers tonight. I like the look of this top line. I like the look of this second line. Really surprised at how low their ownership is here tonight. I was really kind of expecting to see a lot more coming their way. So definitely one of my favorite pivot options on this slate in this Flyers team, this top six. I'm going to be all over him here tonight.
Yeah, I felt the same way. I felt like I was going to have to make a weird decision on the Flyers tonight, and basically the decision has been made for us, given how cheap they are. Obviously, with Sam Harrison, starting back to back for the Flyers, I think the Blackhawks can get there. I'm just not going to invest any money in trying to figure out who it's going to be, and if they burn me, they burn me. I don't really care. But Dvorak, Barkey, Gray knows the two best value options tonight for the Flyers. Fellas, just want to say thank you for always bringing great content. Merry Christmas. Let's have a day. Thank you so much, Michael. Let's have a day indeed, and Merry Christmas to you as well. Let's get to Vegas and San Jose, the Golden Knights. Obviously, no Shea Theodore still, and no Jack Eichel still. So the line combinations are going to be a bit funky again tonight. Mitch Marner will remain at center. Can't believe the Leafs let this guy go. Look at how versatile he is. Barbashev, Marner, Stone, Holtz will draw into the lineup. He'll play with Hurdle and Dorofeyev on that second line. The Sharks team grades out very poorly defensively, very poorly on the penalty kill. This should line up very nicely for this Vegas team tonight. Vegas, I don't feel like I've really got right this year, and they are drawing a significant amount of ownership tonight. I mean, we're talking 24% for Marner, 25% from Stone, 20% nearly for Hurdle, 20% for Dorofeyev. And then when you look at the blue line, you've got 30% for Hanifin. Now, need I remind you, this is a 12-game slate. That ownership on a 12-game slate is pretty crazy. But, I mean, when you look at it, the spot's pretty good. A lot of top six against top six, a lot of bottom six against bottom six in this one. Really good matchups for the top two lines of the Vegas Golden Knights. The top line, significantly better numbers than the second line. Basically, Dorofeyev and Hurdle have struggled without Marner at 5v5, but they've been the primary power play producers for the Vegas Golden Knights. So they have the best power play matchup. So I think Dorofeyev and Hurdle can still certainly get there on the power play tonight. And then obviously you've got the top line kind of does a little bit of everything, 5v5 power play. So they feel like the higher upside line, but I don't mind getting to Hurdle Dorofeyev either. Tom says Hanifin's projection for his price is pretty nuts. That's going to get jammed. Yeah, I mean, he grades out as so clearly the best value defenseman, and he's a guy that I've been playing as a value option all year. And 26 minutes at $4,500. I mean, it doesn't get any better than that. Noah Hanifin is a must play, in my opinion. If you're playing like one lineup, I'm all in there. Like even if you want to fade the Golden Knights, I think Hanifin is quite clearly the best play on the blue line tonight, and makes for the, in my opinion, the best one-off option if you are fading Vegas overall, or at least a line stack. So really interested in Vegas tonight. I don't love the ownership. I'll probably come in under the field on the forwards, maybe over the field on Hanifin. What are your thoughts here? And I mean, I guess we should just talk about it too. Like Askarov at $6,800. I don't think it's out of the realm of possibility that San Jose goes in and steals this hockey game, and he has a great game, and he is like the chalkbuster of all chalkbusters. Merry Christmas, wins you a shitload of money. I think he's super viable tonight, given how insane the ownership is on Vegas.
Yeah, I agree with you, man. I mean, I get some of this ownership to a certain extent. I mean, they're going up against the Sharks. It's the Vegas Golden Knights. They're one of the best teams in the NHL. But man, like 18% on this top line, 14% on this second line. I just don't know if I can meet the field at those numbers. I mean, the line stats for Vegas too are terrible. Granted, that's probably, got a lot to do with the fact that Alexander Holtz is there, and I'm sure that Hurdle and Dorofeyev's numbers together are much stronger than what we're seeing here. But I don't know, man. Like the ownership numbers are just kind of scaring me off a little bit. Like I'm gonna get there a little bit with this Vegas Golden Knights side of things. Do not get me wrong. Like I'll probably be 10 to 15% on that top line, 10% on that second line for sure. But, if the public wants to get as high as they are with this ownership, that's fine with me. I'm going to play some Yaroslav Askarov tonight and hope that he can kind of bust this chalk up for me, and kind of just pray that it works. I think it's a really interesting play going with Askarov against all of this chalk here on this slate tonight. And I mean, Askarov is drawing some ownership too, projected at like 8.7% right now. Tied for the cheapest, or actually he is the cheapest goaltender on the slate at just $6,800. I think this is a good spot for Vegas. Don't get me wrong. Again, I'm going to get there. I just don't think I can get up to, 20% on this top line, 15% on the second line. There's a lot of other options on this slate that I think are equally as appetizing. Like I'm fine getting, some Philadelphia, for example. Yeah, and Mark Sharks make a good point there for sure, right? I mean, Vegas has been absolutely rolling against the Sharks too.
I was muted. These two teams have met twice this year. It was, twice. 4-3 and 4-3 in both games. Hurdle 2 goals in the one game. Mitch Marner goal and assist. Dorofeev an assist. Eichel's not there anymore. Eichel had a goal and an assist. Stone had 2 assists. Dorofeev had a goal. Hurdle had a goal or an assist. Like they've had production in this spot. And I think what's interesting too is what Tom says here. DK basically still has them priced as if Theodore and Eichel are in, and that's kind of exactly how it feels. I think that's just the reason everyone's getting there. They're just so cheap. Like Marner played 24 minutes or 25 minutes the other night, and he's $5,900 in a great matchup. Stone, I don't have his numbers exactly in front of me, but I imagine that he played a large amount of minutes against the Oilers the other night. Yeah, he played 23-39 in that game. Obviously, they're not going to be chasing, you wouldn't imagine, tonight, but like this is a top 6 that's going to be leaned on very heavily. Hurdle was around 20 minutes that game. So, yeah, they've been playing a ton without Eichel, and they're going to probably continue to do so. Even Dorofeev was close to 20 minutes. So they're playing a ton. Great matchup, and they are very, very cheap. On the flip side, man, this Sharks line, I mean, we just talked about it. This is a team, both games 4-3 this year. And this top line suddenly with Colin Graf and Igor Chernyshov, the underlying metrics for San Jose 1 are finally good. Matchup's obviously terrible, but look at the metrics. This is what we've been waiting for Macklin Celebrini. Igor Chernyshov has 17 shot attempts in 3 games, playing under 16 minutes a night. I mean, that is just unconscious. He has 9 shots on goal, 17 shot attempts. In the last 2 games alone, he has 15 shot attempts, playing 17 and a half minutes. I mean, I don't love the matchup as much as anybody here, but those underlying metrics are ridiculous. And if you're going to give me 7.5 shot attempts and 17 and a half minutes at $3,200, sign me up for Chernyshov tonight. You obviously have Macklin Celebrini playing at a ridiculous, unconscious level, but then I don't know. Has anybody even heard of Colin Graf before? Probably not. He is on fire as well. Colin Graf's last 8 games, he has 6 goals and 9 points. Granted, he is shooting 35% during that time, but he's still got good shot volume. The usage is ginormous. He's played over 19 minutes in 3 of his last 4. This line's interesting, man, at 15,500. I think that San Jose won. I have been fading them all year because with Will Smith, the underlying metrics are shit. They just needed Igor Chernyshov and Colin Graf. Who would have thought?
Yeah, not me.
Celebrini is up to $8,800. That's a little bit shitty, but the other two, man, great values tonight.
But when you got an 8,800 Celebrini and the other 2 line mates are 3,200 and 3,500, you can stomach that very, very easily if you're full stacking that line. I've got interest in getting to San Jose 1 here for sure, man. I think you make some great points on them. Love to see these metrics kind of starting to come around for them here with these 2 guys up on this top line. I'll be getting there a little bit for sure. Don't know if I'll be getting to this second line. The line sets have been solid for these 3 guys, Wenberg, Eklund, and Toffoli. I mean, Wenberg would certainly be the guy I'd leave off there. But, Toffoli and Eklund both have really solid floors here as of late. I could see this definitely being a higher event game and both of these teams finding a way to kind of fill the back of the net a little bit. One thing that I will just add about Vegas here really quickly too, the power play, it's just a tremendous spot tonight. Like, I think for me, anything that I'm building Vegas-wise is Noah Hannafin is instantly attached to them. He's up there on that top power play unit. The one thing about Vegas too, at 5-on-5 over their last 10 games played, just 1.88 goals for per hour of ice time. There's certainly a world where Askarov can kind of stand on his head, but if this power play can kind of get going, if the Sharks are a bit undisciplined tonight, that could certainly hurt them in the grand scheme of this game.
Tom says, look at Celebrini shot attempts since this line's been put together. And I mean, it's even before that. His last 4 games, Macklin Celebrini has 42 shot attempts. That is 10.5 shot attempts per game, 5.5 shots on goal. So even if you don't want to play DFS tonight, plus 155 to get Celebrini over 4 shots on goal tonight. He's been averaging 5.5 and 10 shot attempts in his last 4 games. Just ridiculous. Obviously a bad matchup tonight, but I think this line can get there. Okay. Are you happy to just skip LA and Seattle? Because I don't care. This game is going to be so low scoring. I maybe would have considered a little bit of Seattle tonight, but no Vince Dunn, no Brandon Montour. That makes things difficult. LA can't score against anybody. I don't care. Maybe a little LA2. The matchups are good for LA1 and LA2. If you want to plug your nose and play them, they've been just so bad. This offense sucks. So I'm not going to play them. The power play matchup's actually good. The power play's horrific. I think there's a small avenue to get to LA tonight. They are drawing some ownership. I think it makes a small amount of sense, but I can't stomach them right now. It's just horrific.
Yeah, it's disgusting, man. Like last night felt like a really good spot for them going up against Columbus, and they just completely fell flat. I mean, I'm not going to lie. Like, as somebody who covers the Edmonton Oilers, like I've got a bit of a hatred for the LA Kings from the last couple of years. The Oilers have dominated them in the playoffs. I get it. But this is a team that I'm certainly not a fan of. From the DFS streets, I've loved to play the Kings over the last number of years. I mean, how many late night sweats have you and I had, waiting for another LA2 goal or something like that, right? So I'm a little bit sad inside that I can't play the Kings for these late night sweats anymore. And that kind of just feels like the case here again tonight. I just don't really know if I'm going to get there at all. I think if I do, it's probably like a Kevin Fiala Byfield mini stack, maybe a Kempe Kopitar mini stack, but that's probably going to be it, man. And what's really interesting too is if it is Joey Daccord in the crease, which it likely will be here tonight, his numbers against the Kings have been awesome. 7 games played, 4 wins, 2.3 goals against average, and a .924 save percentage. I just really struggle to see the Kings getting there tonight. I hate that they suck now.
Riker Evans, $2,600 on PP1 seems solid. I projected that it could be Cale Fleury, who's $2,500. It could be Riker Evans. Cale Fleury's seen a little bit more power play usage here. I imagine it's gonna be Riker Evans. I do think that seems solid, but it's just it's not necessarily set in stone at the moment. Okay. Let's get to the defensemen and the goalies now. Let's take a look at the values here. So Noah Hannafin, duh. You're obviously playing him tonight. Drew Doughty grades out well. If you don't want to play the Kings, at least there's Drew Doughty there. I talked about Shabbat. I really like Shabbat. I really like Hannafin. Brent Clark's okay. Don't mind the cheaper Edmonton defenseman. Sam Malinsky's always in play. You mentioned Charlie McAvoy. I think he's solid tonight. Who else do we got? Rasmus Anderson, always a stud, just been a freak as of late. Who else? I think a guy like Adam Larson, Riker Evans, those guys are all going to see a lot more minutes tonight. Nick Blankenberg's always in play. Who else? Thomas Harley is just too cheap. I know he's on the top power play unit, but he's too cheap. I really like Jake Sanderson. Brett Pesce's still very cheap. That's probably it for me. At least anybody that really stands out. How about you, Zach?
Did you mention Sean Dursey? I don't think you mentioned Sean Dursey. I think
he's always deserving of a shout. In terms of the ownership, Drew Doughty, Artem Levshunov, Brandon McNabb drawing the most. Adam Pelech, Riker Evans as well. Anybody else for you, Zach?
Sean Walker, I think he's a fine play at $3,500. Sam Malinsky, you mentioned him. A couple of really cheap guys. Michael Kesselring, his floor has really been solid since he's returned from injury. I don't mind getting there. Louis Crevier grades out well from a value standpoint tonight. I think he's a fine play as well. I think you pretty much covered it off otherwise.
Well, let's get to the goaltenders. Make it a little bit bigger for the people at home. Let's sort by projection. Okay, I'm not paying $8,200 for Forsberg. I do not mind Gustafson. I think he's going to face enough volume that he's viable, but that ownership, I think it's tough. I do like National One, so I probably won't get there a ton. Logan Thompson, I think at 8K is a really solid option this evening. I like him. I also, boy, I don't mind Casey DeSmith. I don't mind Linus Allmark, but for me, a lot of Thompson, a lot of Fowler, maybe some Shesterkin, but yeah, I really like Thompson and Fowler tonight. I don't mind paying down for Decord. I wish Dunn was playing, but $7,200. I think Decord can be a decent play. We obviously talked about Askarov as a good pay down and chalkbuster, but for the most part, I really like Thompson and Fowler tonight. How about you?
Yeah, I agree with you. I don't love the goaltenders on this slate here tonight. There's nobody that really jumps out to me as like great plays on this slate. I think Philip Gustafson drawing a ton of ownership. I can get there a little bit. He's probably one of my favorite higher priced guys on this slate tonight. Spencer Knight at $7,300. I talked about how much I loved Philly here and getting over the field. I also think he's a good option at $7,300 there. Askarov 6,800. We talked about him a little bit. The rest of it just feels a little bit tough to get to. Like maybe some Shesterkin if the Capitals are dealing with as many illnesses and issues as they kind of are. I think at $7,400, as long as Nick Toons isn't playing him, I think he's okay. Joey Decord at $7,200. I can get behind him. I think he's a fine play here tonight as well. That's kind of where I'm looking tonight.
Familka, Askarov, Ingram projected to see the highest shot volume of the night. Let's get to the hat trick pick challenge in our daily face-off head-to-head lineup challenge. Zach, who do you want tonight, and why is it Connor McDavid?
Oh, you took the words out of my mouth. It's Connor McDavid. He's been red hot, 12 goals in his last 10 games played, loves to beat up on the Flames. Let's stay hot, Connor.
Yeah, I'm going to go a little bit off the board. Give me Fabian Zetterlund tonight. $3,500 hat trick pick. Fabian Zetterlund. I'm all in. Let's get to the daily face-off, our head-to-head lineup challenge. As you see here on screen, Zach took yesterday's head-to-head, but neither one of us met the minimum cash requirement, narrowly missing out on the $20 cash line. Last night's slate kind of sucked. Didn't go exactly as planned. I think we were like really on some spots, but I just had a hard time putting the proper configuration together. I had some really good spots and just never had the perfect lineup together last night, unfortunately. So, Zach, you won yesterday. Take it away. Who do you got tonight?
Yeah, obviously got Edmonton went with a full stack. Connor McDavid, Zach Hyman, Ryan Nugent-Hopkins. Man, it took me forever to build this lineup. I could not figure out where I wanted to land exactly. Florida 2, talked about them earlier, really liking them. Wanted to get Brad Marchand in there, but just couldn't quite afford him. So when Sam Bennett, Carter Verhaeghe, mini stack, got a little bit of Colorado here as well. Like it feels like a good spot for them. Sam Alinsky on the blue line, 0 ownership. Valeri Nichushkin looks like he's a solid play tonight. I flip-flopped with his last defensive spot and the goaltender. I had Spencer Knight in there for a while, but I decided to pull him out and go with Yaroslav Askarov here. Going right up against your heavy Vegas stack tonight. I think it should be an interesting spot there tonight. And then Lev Shunov grades out really well from a value standpoint tonight.
Yeah, you said this took you forever to build. I was just absolutely rushing to get ready for the show. And in my XG model this evening, Vegas is 1, Edmonton is 2. So I felt pretty good about trying to get them in. I wanted McDavid, obviously. So I got McDavid and I got Hyman in there. Vegas 1 was who I was trying to get to. Couldn't quite get him in. So I went Vegas 2. I don't love the underlying metrics, but I think Hurdle and Dorofeev can do enough at 5v5. Maybe Holtz gets lucky at minimum price. So I want that full Vegas 2 stack. Holtz is talented enough, just doesn't get a lot of run. At $2,500, he could get lucky tonight. And then I went with a mini stack of Zetterlund and Shabbat. I really like Zetterlund tonight. I talked about it. It's 40-goal scorer right now at $3,500. Obviously has 5v5 and power play correlation with Shabbat, who is one of my favorite value defensemen tonight. Obviously got Noah Hannafin in there as well. And then I really think Jacob Fowler has been just awesome for the Montreal Canadiens. I think it's a super winnable game in Boston. So give me Jacob Fowler between the pipes. That's going to do it for this edition of the DFO DFS Hockey Report. Make sure you comment your hat trick pick in the comment section of the video on YouTube. Also, shout out to our friends at Roto Grinders for not only providing projected ownership for today's show, but for the entire first 3 months of the season. season. We really appreciate them, and it really levels up our show. It makes talking about this stuff a lot easier. So thank you so much to them. And if you want to get $20 off your first month of Roto Grinders Premium or buy that for a loved one, you can do so by clicking the link in the description of the video on YouTube. Also, you get 20% off of Action Network Premium if you want to up your betting game there. So thank you guys so much for tuning in. Merry Christmas. Happy holidays. Best of luck tonight. As we said yesterday, we will not be back until next Monday. So enjoy the time off. Enjoy the time with your family. Enjoy the break. Enjoy the sports. Lots of it. NHL, NFL, all sorts of stuff over the next few days. Obviously, the World Juniors starting up. Lots of very exciting and fun time of year. So stay safe out there. Merry Christmas, and we'll see you guys back here on Monday.
Cheers.